Hi everyone, it's Shade here. I just thought I'd do a quick video to cover off a whole bunch of updates that have been done to the Tainted Blood mod for various stability and other improvements. This is just going to be an update video to talk about some of the updates and the bug fixes that I've implemented. For the full overview and explanation of what this mod is and how it works, please see my original mod video. I'll have the links in the description below. First up, if you've previously had some issues with the Undeath Ascension compatibility patch on PC, please go and check the file section, as I initially had that packaged incorrectly and it was not functioning for most people. This has obviously now been fixed and everything should be working fine. So one thing I'm just going to point out in case it's not obvious, but whenever you load up your game, you should always wait a few seconds before trying to shapeshift or utilize any complex features from any other mods that you may have installed. The reason for this is that there's often a lot of checks or events that are triggered upon loading your game. My mod in particular does a whole bunch of checks when you first load up, so it's always good to at least wait 5 or 10 seconds before you dive straight into shapeshifting or anything special. Now, it's also a good idea not to try and shapeshift or use any advanced werebeast or vampire features as soon as you've been turned or as soon as you've finished talking to the likes of Serana, Harkin, Valerica or Ayla. I'm only talking 5 to 10 seconds here, you don't have to wait forever, but please just be mindful that there's a lot of complex scripts that need to do some activities when you interact with some of these characters at times. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out is that a lot of bug reports I'm getting are not actually related to my mod. A lot of these are due to either other mods clashing with other mods, not clashing with mine, or due to some people having some broken functions within their game. Now, don't get me wrong, there's definitely going to be fixes that I need to work on from time to time, so please continue to report them, but I do ask that you check that the issues still exist if you disable my mod, because in most cases they should be irrelevant. Since I don't actually modify any of the actual mechanics of the game itself or to do with vampire or werewolf mods, I do, however, force them to work together, but I don't actually override anything, so it's very unlikely that my mod is clashing or breaking stuff. But of course, it's not impossible. I'm still going to have some issues from time to time, so thank you to those who are on the forums helping each other out, and thank you for those who give me good, detailed, useful information to help solve some of these issues. Now, if you are having some issues, the first thing you always should do is come into the settings menu. Now, this can be accessed from the book that'll be in your inventory, but there's now also a power you can cast as well. In this menu is a whole bunch of configurable stuff within my mod. I'm still surprised at how many people have not realized this menu is here and able to change or tune things, but a big useful section is going to be the fixes and workarounds. In here is where you can fix a bunch of things that may have occurred, such as the Lightfoot perk. I know I've had an issue with that I've now resolved. But the biggest thing I want everyone to think about is if you're having issues like the vampirism hasn't stuck properly or werewolf hasn't stuck properly, or there's just something a bit wonky, come into this section, come into the gifting and curing. Cure whichever thing is not working properly and then gift it again. So if your vampirism's a little bit wonky, come in here, cure it with this menu, wait 5 to 10 to 15 seconds, come in here again, and then gift it. In most cases, this should resolve the issue. Now, in this update, I have improved a lot of the stability that was causing werewolf or vampirism to cancel each other out. A lot of that's resolved, but it's still not going to be 100% guaranteed. So for some players, if it still doesn't work perfectly for you, just go into that menu, cure it and re-gift it, and that should resolve all of your problems. Do not use menus or features from other mods that gift vampirism or werewolf. As an example, do not use the features within Growl to gift your werewolfism. That will cure your vampirism. I cannot do anything about that. Now onto the fixes. So let's start off with a few minor cosmetic things. I have reduced some of the custom armors and textures that I've put in here. I've cleaned up and reduced the file size of the mod significantly in doing this. This was a good learning exercise for me, but I realized this was not very practical for a lot of users, especially those on Xbox. So I do apologize for the very large file size previously, but this is a lot more under control now. There's still a few custom textures like the one that I'm wearing and the one that Indigo's wearing over there, but the other ones will look a bit more generic now.
And hey, yeah, remember you can get some of these armors in real life. Just check out the links down below.
Now, I've also added in a whole bunch of additional hair tints and colours. This is a big credit and thank you to Haladoon, who created the extra hair colours mod. This is not going to be super useful for players on PC since they have access to SKSE and things like race menu or the enhanced character editor, which lets you choose pretty much any color that you want. But for those on Xbox or those not using the script extender, this will give you more options.
These will only be accessible when you're using one of my custom hybrid races, which are accessible from within the ritual menu.
Please note that there's multiple ways to access the settings menu now. You've got the book, you've got the power, and if you do want to recover the book, you can now just go to a tanning rack and craft one for 1 gold piece. Now, as was already in place, the spells, powers, and settings should refresh themselves every time you load your game or every time you sleep. However, I do recognize for some people that wasn't quite working properly all the time, so I've added these extra ways in. So now there should be no excuse for not being able to access the relevant settings menu. Okay, so onto some more cosmetic stuff. If you cast the Tainted Blood ritual, what I've enabled is the option to use additional head parts not intended for your original race. Now, what I mean by this is you can unlock some head parts from other races and have them render on your character. This means that you can do things like having the, where is it? Dremora. So you can have Dremora horns now on your character if you choose. This menu can be accessed from the ritual or from the settings menu. It's up to you. Whenever you unlock or disable certain head parts, you just need to wait for, it depends on the speed of your machine, but it could be 5 seconds, it could be up to 30 seconds. You just have to wait for it to continue running. The menu will come back and then you're good to go. So as an example, here is my character with the Dremora haircut and horns. And here's the other one. Now note, if you do something crazy like enable Khajiit head parts for a human race, you're going to get some results that don't really make sense, and you'll just have to ignore those. This will work for all races, all characters, no matter what you've chosen. In the settings menu, I have also added the option in the fixes and workarounds to grant or cure Lichdom if you have Undeath installed. This will give you the Lich shapeshift ability or cure it. Note that this will not have all the phylactery features if you haven't completed the Undeath quest. Now, I've improved the workaround I've got for those who have been experiencing the werewolf suit bug, where the werewolf form does not correctly clean up the transition armor that it renders over the top of you. People using moonlight tails were getting this issue more than others. Hopefully now this should completely be gone, but just note this is actually a vanilla game issue. This is not necessarily a problem with my mod or Growl or Moonlight Tails. Nevertheless, I've improved my workaround that should hopefully keep things working smoothly no matter what mod you are using. Now, a few other little fixes. Using Werebear with Growl should work properly with quick shifting now. Sometimes Hearken or Ayla would cure the opposing gifts, especially if you were slow to respond to dialogue messages or standing further away from Hearken or Ayla during those quest chain interactions. Also note that Harkon will now correctly identify your werewolfism if you have that first when you approach him, but you should end up keeping both werewolf and vampirism after interacting with him. And one of the biggest annoyances have now been fixed, where the Lightfoot perk was being removed if you were quick shifting between Vampire Lord and any other form. So you can now get it back by just coming into the fixes and workarounds. There's a button here to click that will give you the perk again if you are missing it and you meet all the requirements for having it, but it should no longer disappear and everything should now work properly. But that's it for now. Thank you for your support. Big thank you for those who have bought my merch. Big thank you and shout out to those who have donated, and of course to my Patreon supporters. You guys really give me the motivation to keep working on this stuff and improving it, and I really appreciate all the positive things that have been brewing amongst the community. Now, as always, feel free to give me thoughts, ideas and feedback. Let me know if there's any particular features you think would be cool for a mod like this, or a Lich related mod that I'm thinking of working on. I've got a whole bunch of mods that are still going to be coming out over the next couple of months. Please subscribe and stay tuned. Other than that, have fun everyone and stay safe.